Then those who are watching online, if you're watching online, if you would just go ahead and comment where you're watching from, we would really appreciate that. We see your name, we will pray for you by name this week if you comment and put where you're watching from. We really appreciate it, okay? So we are talking about Satan's tactic of distraction today. And I don't know if any of you are in the same boat as me, but I'm at least mildly A.D.D. Do we have any other A.D.D. people? I've never been officially diagnosed, but I've been told by people who have studied this stuff and know the signs that, like, yeah, Jeremy, you're A.D.D. You are. I'm just telling you what you are. And so we get distracted easily. As I was thinking about distractions, A.D.D. came to my mind. And I was sitting at the kitchen table this past week, and I was working on my computer, actually writing this message today. And Josiah was at his computer, and he was doing his work, and there's a whole bunch of kids on this video call, you know, and the teacher asked this one kid, I don't know his name, but she was like, so-and-so, are you watching the video like you're supposed to? And he goes, teacher, I'm in the computer somewhere I'm not supposed to be, I think. It was so cute. It was like his little voice, it was so cute. You know, we had a teacher in high school in 9th grade, Mr. Vaughn. We knew we could always get him sidetracked if we brought up sports. It was like clockwork. And we knew it, and we played him like a fiddle. We knew we could get him sidetracked so that we wouldn't have to do math for a while. And somebody would say, hey, Mr. Vaughn, did you see that baseball game on last night? And sure enough, he's gone 15, 20 minutes talking about baseball. And eventually he figured it out one time. He was like, now you guys are doing this on purpose, aren't you? Like, yep, we are. Did you have any teachers like that? You could get them distracted and get them off topic with a certain thing? How many of you, when you were a kid, you never finished cleaning your room? Because every time you start cleaning your room, you'd come across a yearbook, you'd come across a journal, and the next thing you know, you're off reading forever. Like, you never finished. That was me. Anybody else? These are my people, all right? These are my people. What about you dial a number, but by the time someone answers, you forget who you were calling? Has that ever happened? Be honest. If so, you might be A.D.D. As you know, A.D.H.D. stands for Attention Deficit. Hey, a dog. My punny friend got it. Thank you for the laugh. So I found a couple of memes that I thought were pretty funny. The first meme is, and this is totally me, I'm very busy doing things I don't need to do in order to avoid doing anything I'm actually supposed to be doing. Is that anybody else in the room? And then this next one, this is a classic. What do we want? A cure for A.D.H.D. When do we want it? Squirrel. That is so us. So, have you ever looked back, serious question now, have you ever looked back on your life with regret? Wished that you had spent time on things that were more important? Have you ever been tempted away from what you were supposed to be doing and you gave in and you regretted it? Has that ever happened to you? Do you ever feel frustrated because you planned to get lots of things done, but then one thing after another got you sidetracked and you didn't get anything done that you planned to do that day? That ever happened?
Yes.
You know, most people think of the devil as a mean little guy in red spandex who's trying to trick you into doing something naughty, right? That's our picture of the devil. And even though we know he's real, very few of us think of him as a dangerous, crafty murderer who will take any opportunity to take a piece of your soul. The Bible speaks of the devil as a fully conscious and treacherous enemy who wants you spiritually dead, and he hates you. And so we need to study the enemy's tactics so that we can prevent that from happening. Remember when the internet first got big and there were these pop-ups? You remember pop-ups? They were these full screen windows that would just pop up out of while you were trying to look at something else. This pop-up thing would come up, and all of a sudden it's this advertisement trying to get you, lure you away to their website. You remember pop-ups? Yeah. Nowadays we have pop-up blockers that do their job pretty well, but we still have ads like in the middle of YouTube. An ad will pop up. Pop-ups, right? Pop-ups. So today we're going to talk about Satan's pop-ups, Satan's efforts to distract us and detract us from our goals. So turn to Genesis chapter 3. Genesis chapter 3. So this is the very beginning of the Bible. Sometimes it's hard to turn to the very front of the Bible, you know. Genesis chapter 3. And Satan actually uses two tactics in this one story. I'm going to point them out after we read. But verse 1, chapter 3, verse 1. Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made. Are you with me? The serpent was more crafty. He's crafty. How many of you know the devil is crafty? He's not stupid. He's smart. He's crafty. He's more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, "Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden?" The woman said to the serpent, "We may eat from the fruit from the trees in the garden, but God did say, you must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will die." "You will not certainly die," the serpent said to the woman, "for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." When the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye, and also desirable for gaining wisdom, everybody say desirable, she took some and ate it. She also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it. What is the tactic that the devil is using here?
Deceitfulness.
It is. And we're going to get to that one. The main one he used two tactics, and that's the second one I was going to mention. Very good. The first one is I'm going to call, so you know, here everything's fine at the corner of Eden Cove and Paradise Lane, and then pop up. Here comes Satan in the form of a serpent. And what does he do? He asks Eve a question. And what is the goal of his question? A question that would make her mind search for something. She's scanning her brain. Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden? And so what does she do? She starts scanning her mind. Well, there was that one tree. You know, he's getting her to focus on the one thing she's not supposed to have. Right? And it works, doesn't it? It works. She lands on the tree in the middle. Verse 6 says the tree was pleasing to the eye. This was a good-looking tree, good-looking fruit. I have to wonder, let's ask ourselves, was that tree really better looking than the other trees? Or did it just look good because it was the one she wasn't supposed to have?
Yes.
I think the second one. It looked good because she knew she wasn't supposed to touch it. We know God made all the trees good. Chapter 2, verse 9 tells us God made all the trees pleasing to the eye and good for food. This one just looked good because she couldn't have it. Pop-up number 1 is desire distractions. Desire, I had you say that word desirable. Desire distractions. This distraction the devil used was a twofold distraction. First, Satan distracted Eve away from all the good she already had. And he got her to focus on the one thing she wasn't supposed to have. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Adam and Eve literally had everything you could want in life. Everything. They truly lived in a paradise. They didn't have to work for their food. If they were hungry, they just walked up to a tree and plucked a piece of fruit. They didn't have to work for their food. There was no pain. There was no disease. There was no death. They had full fellowship with God. What does that mean? They could walk and talk with God back and forth just like you and I. They had that. They had this beautiful, wonderful relationship with God. Full fellowship. They had everything you could literally ask for, and yet Satan's trick worked to get them to think of the one thing they weren't supposed to have. Isn't that amazing? And does he do that with us? You better believe it. It's the grass is greener on the other side syndrome. Satan gets you to take your eyes off of the good things you already have and gets you to focus on something you don't have. Satan gets into the ear of a wife. Don't you know you could do better? Don't you know you could be with someone who's rich? You would never have to work another day in your life. Don't you know, gets in the ear of a wife, don't you know that there's men out there that actually get their clothes in the clothes hamper and don't leave the toilet seat up? It's true. It gets in the ear of a husband. Don't you know there are lots of other women out there to choose from as he throws a literal pop-up screen in the middle of your computer? Don't you know there are a lot prettier girls out there you could have as he puts another magazine right in front of you in the grocery aisle? Of course, he is going to leave out the fact that the editor had to airbrush that image to get that person to look that way. And he's also going to leave out the fact that a lot of those models struggle with bulimia or anorexia. Yeah, we're going to leave that part out. But pop up to try to distract a husband away from his spouse. It's no wonder that one of the 10 Commandments was, do not covet your neighbor's wife. Or as the country commandments say, don't go hankering for your buddy's stuff. I like that version better. It's a trap of the devil, and we can't fall for it. Somehow we've got to train our minds to refocus on the good things we do have. Think about the good qualities. The person you're with has good qualities. Satan's just trying to make you think about all the bad qualities. Think about the reasons why you got with them in the first place. They're a good person. Don't fall for the grass is greener trap, which brings us to the deception. The second, it was a distraction, but it was also a deception. Satan tried to get Eve to believe that things would be better for her if she ate this fruit. And was that true? Did things get better for Eve? No, they got a lot worse. And not just for her, but for all of the human race. It was a lie. It was a deception from the start. God's holding out on you. He's just trying to get you to have a better way of life. But that was a lie. And if you think switching to someone else is going to solve all of your problems, that's a lie from the devil. The grass always seems greener. But guess what? Everybody's got their strengths and weaknesses. There are no perfect people out there. It's a deception that the devil wants you to bite on. So now, on your next steps, just write them. You can write them on the back of your sermon notes there. Write down all the good things you have and all the good things that you're already blessed with, and write down the good things that your significant other has. Now, some of you, because you're ADD like me, have already gotten distracted and you're already thinking about the game later and you're already thinking about lunch. I need you to come back here. Focus. Here we go. For point number 2. Pop up number 2, time distractions. Time distractions. He distracts us from staying on task and accomplishing goals. I was reading this article by a guy named Richard Dobler, who was going to the county fair with his brother. And he had $21 in his pocket. And while there were lots of things that he was excited about at the county fair, the animals, lots of things to do, the one thing he was focused on was rides. He wanted to go and hit as many rides as he possibly could. So he takes his little brother in, he's going to ride the rides. Not 5 minutes into being in the park, in the fair grounds, he hears a voice calling his name. Or so he thought. And he turns, and there's this person at a game booth beckoning him. Come over here, play my game. And so he goes over there, and he said within 5 minutes of being at this game booth, he had lost most of his money. It was gone. All the money he had brought for those rides, most of it was gone. And he found himself angry at the hawker for calling him over there, but mostly angry at himself for falling for it. And here he was, spending $17 and almost all of his money gone, and he's still 5 points away from winning the giant stuffed animal. Right? And I think that's a good illustration of what Satan does to our day. Have you ever had this happen? Where you plan, you're like, all right, today's going to be a productive day. I'm going to get lots of good things done. And then, boom, pop-up, distraction. Something gets you sidetracked. And then another thing. And then another thing. And you look back on your day and you're like, I didn't get any of the things done that I had planned to do. Has that happened to anybody else besides me? Yeah. Distractions. Satan coming in there to keep us from being productive. Ephesians 5:15 on screen says, therefore, be careful how you walk, not as unwise men, but as wise, making the most of your time because the days are evil. Isn't that one interesting? The days are evil. I wonder why God put that in his Bible, the days are evil. Maybe it's because he knows that we can get distracted and we can have our whole day tanked in very quickly by these distractions. I like how Psalm 90 verse 12 puts in the New Century Version, teach us how short our lives really are so that we can be wise. In our age of technology, we have all kinds of distractions. We have phones that people can get a hold of us on anytime, anywhere. They can always call us and get a hold of us and distract us. We have phones that can go anywhere on the internet, which creates a whole set of its own distractions, right? You ever go on Facebook to plan to do something specific, like I'm going to make a post, and then you get sucked into the Facebook vortex. It's like 30 minutes later, it's like, where did that time go? Man, what a waste of time that was. 30 minutes just gone, just sucked in there, right? Technology is not evil in and of itself. I don't believe that it's evil. It can be used for good. We use it for good. Our church uses it for good. We use it to put prayer requests out there, right? We use it to hopefully encourage one another. We use it to keep up on each other's lives and what each other is doing, and hopefully not in a creepy stalker kind of way, but just like that's why social media was invented, to keep up on what everybody's doing, right? But it can be also a negative thing. That if technology is keeping you from spending time with your kids and with your family, that's a problem. That's a problem. Some good friends of ours, they actually turned off their Facebook account because they gave their daughter a play phone, one that they weren't using anymore. It was an older phone. And they saw their daughter mimicking them, scrolling through Facebook. And they said, oh man, that's not good. Like, that's her impression of this is all we spend our time doing is this. And they're like, this has to go. That was their decision. I'm proud of them for making a decision for themselves. But sometimes if technology is keeping you from actually spending quality time with your family, that's a problem. If technology is keeping you from being productive at work, that's a problem. The Bible says in Colossians that we're supposed to work for our employer as if we're working for the Lord. Like, that takes it up a notch, doesn't it? That takes it up a level. We need to take this seriously and not just, waste a bunch of time, surfing around on social media. Sometimes I know I get this way. I'm at work, and that meme where it said, I'm doing a bunch of things I don't really need to do so that I don't have to do the thing I really am supposed to be doing. That's me. You ever sit there thinking, man, I'd rather be playing some game on my phone, or I'd rather be watching Facebook? If technology is distracting us from taking care of our responsibilities, we need to put limits in place. Put limits in place. So I was reading this blog by Carey Nieuwhof. He was talking about how when you stop, studies show that when you stop to check your email, it takes you 15 minutes to get your mind back on track where you were fully focused. 15 minutes to get back on track fully focused. And when I read that, I was like, man, I need to change some things here. I need to change the way I'm going about some things. Like, I am wasting a lot of time checking my email all the time. And so what he recommends is you do a schedule for emails. So like first thing in the morning, you check your email. At lunchtime, check your email. And then before you leave work, check it one last time. But save those times to check it, because otherwise you're constantly having to get yourself back into focus mode. So one of the things he recommends, and this is one of your next steps, is to disable the push notifications on your phone. What are push notifications? You know how when somebody posts something on Facebook, your phone dings, and then a thing comes up on your screen, like maybe up at the top, and it says, so-and-so, you have a new notification about so-and-so. That's a push notification. So Carey Nieuwhof recommends turning all of your push notifications off except for your text messaging and your actual phone calling. And then even with the text messages, while he's working on something that he needs to be focused, he'll put his phone on Do Not Disturb mode for like the next 2 hours or whatever. So I've done that on my phone, because otherwise I'm too ADD. It'll constantly like, oh, what's that? Oh, I need to go check that. Oh, what happened over here? And you're not getting anything done. So we have desire distractions. We have time distractions. And then third, we have priority distractions. Priority distractions. He distracts you with less important things to get you to forget about the more important things. 2 Corinthians 11:3 says, "But I am afraid that just as Eve was deceived by the serpent's cunning, your minds may somehow be led astray from your sincere and pure devotion to Christ." Where does it start? The battle starts in our minds. This is where Satan attacks. I'm afraid that your minds may be led astray from your sincere and pure devotion to Christ. The parable of the sower. Soil number 3. This plant grows up, but unfortunately it's choked out by the thorns of life. It never produced fruit. It never got to be productive in God's kingdom. And Jesus comes along and he says later that those thorns represent the worries of this life, the deceitfulness of wealth, and the desire for other things. In other words, we're chasing after stuff. We're chasing after all the stuff we can get in life. And it keeps us from being productive in God's kingdom. Jesus said this, "What good is it if a man gains the whole world and yet loses or forfeits his very soul?" Like, this is serious business. We can get so sidetracked chasing after stuff that we could lose our very eternal soul. We need to pay attention to this. This is important. How many of you really like to see a good illusionist, a magician? Anybody like illusionists? Yeah? They have those on America's Got Talent. One of them even won on the last season. But, one of the things that illusionists are so good at doing is they get you to look over at this hand while in their other hand they're doing the trick. It's look over here, get distracted while I'm doing this. And I think Satan is like the master illusionist. He's like, look over here, let me distract you with this over here, and steal away your relationship and your time with God. And we can't fall for his tricks. You ever have this one happen? You have a week go by and you realize, man, I didn't spend any good time hanging out with my kids, hanging out with my family. And you say, next week week's going to be different. Next week I'm going to make sure we're going to hang out. We're going to go somewhere. We're going to do something. And then the next week comes and goes and still didn't hang out. Does that ever happen to you? Yeah. He steals that from us. And we need to spend time with our kids. Here's a distraction that I see Satan getting people with is working crazy amounts of hours to keep up with the Joneses. So to have a certain lifestyle, like, I want to live in a certain neighborhood in a certain kind of house. I want to have a certain kind of car. I want to be able to go on certain kinds of vacations and trips. And because we want all these things, it keeps us running the rat race of just 60 hours a week or more. And what it's actually doing is we say we're doing it in the name of for our family. Like, well, I'm just trying to provide a better life for my family and better stuff and better things. But if they have these nice things, but they don't have you, they don't have time with you, that's a problem. And we can't let Satan get us with those. In the movie Cheaper by the Dozen, Steve Martin's character finally gets his dream job getting to coach football at his alma mater where he went to college. And so he's doing his dream job, but unfortunately he's juggling all this stuff with his family at the same time. Like, he's literally having to bring his kids to the practices with him. And then he's bringing the football players, to his house to try to juggle and do both and multitask. And his boss picks up on this and says, this isn't working. You need to decide, are you going to be here mentally, fully, or not? And I need a decision by Monday. And so he comes back to his boss and he says, I've made my decision. I'm going to retire at the end of this season. And his boss goes, you would give up on your dream like that? And he said, listen, if I screw up raising my kids, then nothing else I accomplish will matter much. That's a good line. It's a good truth. If we do all these great things in life and accomplish all these great things, but we screw up raising our kids, it's not worth it. And so I've got 2 next steps that tie in with this point. 1, set a family night and stick to it. And what I mean by that is 1 night a week where you set that aside and you block it out and you say, nothing is going to get in the way of that. I'm going to hang out with my family. Got to make it a priority. And then another one, to keep us from being distracted away from our relationship with God, do a Bible reading plan with at least one other person, either in one of our D groups or like a YouVersion Bible reading plan. And what you can do with those, YouVersion is a Bible app. And what you can do is you can create a reading plan and you can actually share that with someone and say, hey, would you do this reading plan with me? I want to do this plan. But the key is accountability. Whatever you do, if you're going to do a Bible reading plan, get somebody else in on that with you so that there's accountability, so that you're keeping each other on track. I don't know about you, but I am sick of Satan getting me off track of my goals of being like Jesus. I'm sick of the devil stealing my time. I'm sick of him getting me distracted on things that aren't really important. I want to stay focused on what's most important. I need God's help. I need your help. We need each other's help. So let's apply what we've learned today. Let's live out the life that God has set out for us. Let's take hold of the life that is truly life.